At work, it can feel like stress is coming from deadlines, meetings, and expectations. But what if the pressure you feel isn't actually coming from the outside world? I'm Luke Richardson, and this is Wave Work Stress Goodbye, a podcast exploring the inside out understanding and how seeing how our minds work can transform the way we experience work, pressure, and performance. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Today I'm joined by Sacha Hughes, author of Love, Grief and More Sex Than Pinot, which is out this April 2026. It's a fictional story based around her character Soho, but draws heavily on Sacha's own experiences of grief, self-doubt and navigating life in the corporate world. I'm really looking forward to exploring her story and where that experience of stress and pressure really comes from. Sacha, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on, Luke. I
No,
really, really appreciate
no,
it.
pleasure. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited indeed. So
Thank you.
I think to get kick started for people who haven't come across you before,
Yes.
can you share a bit about can you share a little bit about your past, your journey, and what led you to write Love, Grief, and More Sex Than Pinot?
Yeah, I grew up in Leigh-on-Sea. I had a lovely upbringing. Was very lucky, the youngest of four children. Life was really perfect until my beautiful mum died when I was 24 of breast cancer. She'd been ill for about 5 years on and off. And then at that stage, I've hit self-destruct mode, all while trying to keep up a job in the corporate world. So it's rather tricky trying to balance both. And yeah, so 10 years of complete self-sabotage, but heavily grieving mum. Then I've married two children, beautiful children, was thinking that's all the happily ever after. Sadly, the marriage wasn't meant to be. And a couple of years later, that led to a divorce. And the last 10 years, I have been incredibly focused on my own journey of healing, really very much trying to turn from self-sabotage to self-love. And the last 3 years, I have been writing my Soho Summers series with the very first book, the debut novel, Love, Grief, and More Sex Than Pinot. I'm not sure if I can show you on the screen, but it's too blurry.
Just about to make it out, but yeah. But
Yeah, sorry.
what I will do when I edit the review record, I can put a picture of the book in the bottom right corner when I do the
Amazing.
podcast, so people can see it that way instead.
That would be great. Yes. Yeah, so I've spent the last 3 years writing that. Having never written anything before, suddenly this book has just poured out of me, almost like having a third baby. And it's been the most therapeutic sort of stage of my life. So yeah, very grateful for it.
Very good. 3 years to write the book. Wow, it's a long process.
Yeah, do you know what? It actually started because I always knew I had a story in me, but a story that was full of love, life, and humor and heartbreak, everything. But I never had the happily ever after. And it was only, so I thought no one would be interested in it. And so I've always loved writing, but I never ever thought I don't have an English degree. I never thought I could write a book. But about a little while ago, a few years ago, I went on holiday and I met someone, and it was the most incredible experience. I was single, and I met someone. The connection between us was so magnetic and so strong. And I felt like I was having this modern day Shirley Valentine kind of experience. And when I came back from that, the only way to process my feelings was to start to put pen to paper. And I realized for the very first time in my life, it was like I suddenly knew my personal mission, which was to write a book inspired by my experience with this gentleman. And then also to write the backstory, which was sort of inspired by my personal experiences during the self-sabotage years and how a girl suddenly came to being on a boat on the Adriatic, saying yes to life, yes to the universe, and yes to him. So that's how it all came about.
It's funny, isn't it? Because, like you say, you never plan to write a book, and I think about my own life, and I never planned to be a project manager, never planned to be a podcaster, never planned to be a work stress coach, and you just get to a point, don't you, in life where you think, I want to do that, but it was never in the immediate plan. I guess that's the
Yeah.
same for you writing this novel as
Yeah.
well.
It's so true. I do think we're guided through life. I think we all have a sort of soul path, and we can go off on our A road, or sometimes you go on the B road. And I think certainly the self-sabotage is probably the B road, but actually they all led me to where I am today. So nothing is lost. It's all given me the awareness that I have today. So I'm grateful for all of it, even though when I was wading through the mud at the time, it felt so sticky and awful. But yes, it takes, I think you just have to follow your inspiration, don't you, with these things?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that takes me now on to the next bit, which is you mentioned going through grief, and I guess that's in the title as well of your book, and questioning a lot about life. What was that period like for you? I guess that kind of links back to your mum. You mentioned about your
Yeah.
mum.
It was, I mean, what the actual time, I mean, the build up to mum going was, oh, it was so raw. It was so full of love for her, and the whole family trying to stick together, and we were all looking after her. And she actually, we nursed her at home, so it was, in a way, it was beautiful and magical. But equally for me, being sort of 24, I was the only sibling that hadn't got a partner. I didn't have children. I felt like I was very angry. I wasn't externally angry because I didn't want to become a burden to my parents or anyone around me. But internally, I was furious. Like, why is this happening to my beautiful mummy? And awfully, I was a bit like, why isn't it happening to other people? Why my mum? Why is she the one that had to go? And so yeah, there was a lot of anger that I was trying to process. And then when she actually did pass away, I honestly, if I could have died that day too, I would have done. And for years afterwards, I felt like that. It was like the darkest years where I was just carrying this. I felt like my life had no meaning and I had no purpose. And without my beautiful mum there was no amazing person championing me and guiding me. It just felt like my heart had gone. So yeah, it was horrific. And one thing I did during those years to try to, you know, uh, numb the pain was use Pinot Grigio and cocaine as my forms of painkiller, which on reflection was awful. But at the time, it was the only thing I really knew to lean to. And for a while it worked. But the problem with that is the grief doesn't go away. You're just running away from the grief. You're not dealing with it. And you're numbing any joy coming into your life as well. So yes, hence the healing in the last 10 years.
I've got a hell of a lot of sympathy for you with that because a 24-year-old woman going through something like that. I mean, they say something like an adult's brain hasn't really developed until 26. So thinking you were
Wow.
24back then and going through all that's a hell of a lot to take on.
Yeah, I felt it's weird because sometimes when I think of 24, I think, oh, that's grown up. You're an adult. You should know how to live your life. And certainly my parents at that age, they were parents themselves. They were sorted. They had the marriage. Their future looked bright. And so by comparison, I was in a career that I kind of fell into because I was backpacking at the time when I got a call from my sister to say that my mum had the cancer was back. And so I very quickly had to get a job, and I landed a job in recruitment, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I was backpacking to work out what I did want to do, and
Yeah,
yeah, so I just felt so lost. I felt just as if life didn't have my back, and so incredibly, excruciatingly, grieving and in pain that my mum had died, and so lost and directionless and alone. I felt so alone, and I was permanently trying to sort of give my life meaning. Like, what was the point in all of this? Was there any way I could give any my suffering any meaning? Because at the time I just couldn't see a way out. And as for the whole concept of self-love, that was totally lost on me. I had no idea that probably, well, the only person that could really fix me was me, and it was going to be an inside job. I was just forever looking externally for the guy or somebody to come along and save me. So yeah, it was really tough years.
I know what you mean when it comes to the age of 24. You think at the time and younger than 24, like 24 is a really like grand age and you should know better. But the more I get older, I don't know about you, but the more I
Mm.
see the age of 24 is really young.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's a funny age, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
they're starting, they're in their jobs. They're probably maybe sometimes quite established in their jobs.
yeah,
They might have a mortgage if they're lucky. They've a lot of the life is quite adult living. But yes, in terms of having had enough life in you to turn any of your wounds into wisdom, they haven't really got the years in them yet, have they? So they are very
absolutely.
young and naive and green around the edges, but they're also quite hopeful because they haven't probably been knocked quite so many times. So you still have the big dreams, don't you? And which is wonderful. But yeah, it is young. I now feel that is young. It depends really.
And you mentioned it in the past that you turned to booze, Pinot and alcohol and all sorts of other things, drugs to kind
Yeah.
of numb the pain. Looking back now, why do you think that was the case? I guess what I'm trying to say is why did people, not just you or women, but men as well, why did people in general turn to those things to um kind of escape from suffering? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's often the pain's just too much to be present with, isn't it? That's certainly how I felt. So I was looking for something to just help me numb it. And by that stage, I had my alcohol tolerance was actually pretty high. I had been at university. I went to the University of Sheffield. There was a very colourful nightlife there with Gatecrasher and various other nightclubs. And I was also drinking quite heavily already because mum was seriously ill. And so whilst I was temping in jobs in London and then going back to my hometown in Essex to see her every other weekend, I would be nulling, or, sort of working my way through the grief or the imminent grief by trying to drink my way out of it. I think it's a quick, well, society, the alcohol, companies, they've got a lot to blame, haven't they? It's everywhere.
Absolutely,
It's kind of a
absolutely.
conditioning that we all have, that you drink to celebrate, you drink to commiserate, you drink if you're bored. Like it's just kind of in our society. And I really do think that needs addressing, or
Oh,
people's awareness
absolutely,
needs to be raised around it.
absolutely, and
Yeah,
it's in on sports adverts, all sorts of different things, isn't it?
absolutely. Yes.
Billboards, it's like you say, it's everywhere, and like you say, it's just the norm we've grown up with. I think booze is starting to become. Do you know when we were younger and your parents or friends of your parents would smoke cigarettes, and
Yes.
then now it's kind of gone out of fashion. So I think booze is eventually coming back new cigarette. It's going to
I
go
think
out
it
of
is.
fashion soon.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
as many young people drink or don't certainly don't drink as much as what we used to, our parents
no.
used to. I think it's slowly going out of fashion a lot.
Which I think is excellent. And
Oh,
I'm lucky,
absolutely.
fortunate enough to have quite old nieces and nephews who are sort of in their late 20s, early 30s. And they're very awake and they don't drink. They're
Mm,
very into their health and fitness and their
yeah.
mindfulness. And it's brilliant. And I so hope I've got a 12-year-old daughter and or nearly 12-year-old daughter, nearly 10-year-old son. And I really hope that they don't go down the drinking heavily route and that they are just fully present with their feelings. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so yeah,
I think there's a lot for healthy habits, isn't it? Like, there is still that culture of, oh, let's, like, lads being lads, let's go to the pub together, and girls drinking Pinot, like you say, on
I
busy weekends.
know.
Um, but there never seems to be a let's go to the gym together, that kind of
Yeah,
rapport
the
with each
healthy,
other. The health,
healthy
yeah, on a
things. But
Saturday or a
funnily enough,
Sunday.
when I was grieving and in my 20s, it was so many people did say to me, "Oh, you should join join a healthy club. Do you, I don't know, a cycling club or gardening club or something." Yet, for whatever reason, I didn't, none of that lit me up. I suppose I worked in a very male like dominant industry in recruitment. I worked in as a compliance recruiter within the financial services industry, particularly focused on investment banking. And there was lots of client and dining. And at that stage, it was still like if you won a deal or you placed a candidate, then you would often take the client out for a rather lovely lunch, which would generally mean sharing a bottle of wine at lunch. For most people, they would leave it there and then would go back to the office and carry on the working day. However, I was exceptionally naughty, and I was, like I say, I was angry, and I was trying to run away from my life, I suppose. So I wouldn't often go back to the office, and I'm so sorry, boss, if you're ever listening to this. I was, yeah, terrible employer. I'd never have employed myself, and I have awful nightmares now, just thinking how I hoodwinked him into thinking I was the best candidate for the job. However, I was so sad that I didn't want booze. It was like it was something for me to do to stop me from feeling the pain, and it was easy and it was readily available, and it was I would go for boozy client lunches perhaps twice a week, and then after work with my colleagues everyone would always go to the pub, and for most of them would head home by sort of 8 9. I would be there till closing, and often I'd go to an after party, or then it would be an after party. So I was in this vicious circle of, and people thought I was an amazing party animal, and I was. But however, I was just had a massive clown face on. I would be laughing and joking, but inside I was a mess. And I just wish I had the strength at that time to lean into myself, to meditate, to tune in, and to realize there's so much light and love within me, and if only I had the strength to find it myself. But hey, it came years later, so I'm very lucky that I have arrived at that spot.
There's a lot of innocence there, isn't there, for you and for those people going to the pub? Because I think naturally people, this is what I do with people. I try and point people to where their experience is really coming from. And as I can see the innocence in it because people are naturally going to the pub to get away from a stressful week at work, understandably. But if people
Yeah,
understood
yeah.
where that experience really was coming from, they wouldn't need to go to the pub to de-stress from a stressful week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is true. And also perhaps if they were in a job that was perhaps more aligned to the core of them, that
Absolutely.
actually was something that lit them up. Whereas I spent, as I said, I fell into recruitment and I was very lucky that I got my job. My first job was with Hayes Montrose and I was doing architectural recruitment, which as a temp role. And then I got into the permanent position within financial services. And I was actually at that company for 10 years which I mean, almost hats off to me because that shows resilience. And I was trying to be responsible and I was trying to keep at least some part of my job stable. However, I was deeply unhappy. I felt like in hindsight, I was completely abandoning myself because I could never understand why so many of my colleagues were finding joy out of the work, why we would go to meetings and they would look like they were fully engaged in it. And I would sit there thinking, these talk about KPIs and business strategy and sales calls, it genuinely had no meaning to me. And that with the whole throwing in all the grief side of things, I then had this awful feeling that I was just missing the memo. Like there was something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Why aren't I getting as inspired by my colleagues about this stuff? So again, even at work, I was putting that mask on, pretending to be excited and passionate about something that really I had such little interest in. And the reason was because I was craving humanness. I was craving connection. I was craving depth. I was craving real conversations about real feelings. So yes, can't remember. Sorry, the initial question that led me on to
Well,
talking about this.
you mentioned human connection, and I can,
Yeah.
and this is going naturally into my next topic was when you emailed me when we were discussing arranging this recording, you've mentioned about how you were trying to find a knight in shining armor, and
Yes.
that I imagine a lot of people to even today can relate to that more with, how I guess dating is a lot more difficult now with all this technology we've got, 20, 30, 40 years ago, people met naturally in a bar or through friends, and now it's online and through all
Yeah.
these apps. And I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, why do you think people, this goes for men as well, not just women, why do you think people are trying to find that someone to help fix them, or trying to find even not just love, but that temporary relief of just a one night stand, just to kind of make them feel something? Why do you think that is, that people are looking for those sorts of things just to kind of feel, I guess, looking for that escape again, like the drugs and the alcohol and
Yeah.
that kind of thing? It's the same thing of looking for something to feel a certain way. Why do you think that
Absolutely.
is?
I think, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I can certainly speak from my personal experience. And
Absolutely.
having done spent the last 10 years really on this self-discovery journey, I've come to the conclusion that it really was that I did not feel worthy. As a kid, I was an inherently shy child, and which was quite interesting because I was the youngest of four, and my mother used to always think, "Oh, I should be singing from the rooftops," and like the kind of the really loud one. But I wasn't. I was so shy, and I would hide under my mum's skirt, and I think it all just. And then also, I absorbed. I loved the Disney films, so I had this inherent belief that there was a tower and that at some point this knight on shining armor would come and fix me. And I loved all of the Hans Christian Andersen books. I loved, The Little Mermaid. I read all of it and I believed it, and all the rom-coms. So it was just inconceivable to think that nobody was going to come and save me. So the whole time when my parents had a really beautiful marriage, they were together for nearly 40 years, and it really was a beautiful love story. And so I suppose, and then my older siblings are sort of similar. I suppose I also just thought that, of course, that would also happen to me. So when my mum passed away and I was 24 and I was working in London, I instead of focusing on the work, I was forever looking for the guy. I'd go to the networking events. I wouldn't really be focused on what we were meant to be talking about. Be looking around the meeting room thinking, well, where is he? Hello, I'm here, I'm ready. And yeah, so it was such a huge disappointment, I suppose, that they weren't there. But it was always because I now realize I didn't feel worthy. I did crave the external validation. I gave my power away to everyone. I I I honestly I always was looking for somebody to say to me that I was enough. Why didn't I think I was good enough myself? And where was I in all of this? Why was I always trying to make other people feel good, putting them on pedestals, being the people pleaser? Why didn't I ever look out for me? Like, where was I in all of my thought processes? So I do feel like you always definitely have to come back to self. And the drink and the drugs was just amplifying the problem, really. Um, and when you are under the influence of those things, trying to meditate and tune into your heart space, I would say from personal experience is pretty tricky. You're either drunk or you're hungover. It's not the best position to be in. So yes, I actually did do. I've got divorced in 2017, and at that time, I firmly embraced sober sensations. I hadn't been drinking for a long time anyway because I had two young children. But I actually stopped drinking for about 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
And that was
wow.
incredible. And during that time, whilst my children were asleep in bed next to me, I read so many self-help books. I read all the things about um, self-love, gratitude, present moment living, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, things like the power of meditation, calm parenting. And I absorbed all of that. I read all the spiritual books, things by the likes of Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, Eckhart Tolle. And if I wasn't listening to this, if I wasn't reading this stuff, I was listening to it all on podcasts. And I just really felt like my inner world during that time was changing beyond recognition. And it also beautifully. I loved it because I finally thought, oh my gosh, there's more to life. I knew there was more to life than just this corporate world and this whole society thing of you get married, you have the children, 2.4 children, the white picket fence. Like to me, that wasn't working in my life. And I'd always felt a misfit. And then suddenly I found the power of the energy world. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, this is where I'm more aligned with. This is where I suppose, yeah, my heart feels right.
I absolutely love that, Sasha. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there when you said about why can't I find someone to tell me I'm enough? Because that's what my work is. I kind of point people to help them to see that they aren't what they are, they aren't their experience going through their head, and to point they are enough. Just they
Yeah.
don't need anything like the drugs or the booze or the man or the partner to feel a certain way. They are enough, and that's exactly what you said as well.
Yeah. For me, it's taken a long time to get here though. And beautifully, actually, writing my book has been a really good
Yeah,
sort of part in that because the two areas I've really struggled on is the self-love and letting go of the pain of my mum dying. So I was clinging on so tightly to her passing away for almost 20 years. I was hurting. And through writing my book, which obviously is inspired by personal experiences, I've created a character called Soho Summers. And it's been phenomenal to watch her stumble through similar sticky situations that I once lived. And as a result of that, I've seen how strong she is actually. And I've grown to love her. And by virtue of that, it's almost like I've grown to kind of get the self-love with me and see what I'm capable of. And
absolutely.
also through reopening the old wounds and writing about this girl Soho Summers losing her mother, I was able to reopen the wounds with my mum, and with a much wiser, older hat on, I was finally able to let go of the pain of her go. I still absolutely adore her and love her. That's not changed, but the pain has gone. So this book has just been the most wonderful gift for me. And I'm very grateful that I was guided. It was kind of like inspired action. I was guided by the universe and this chance encounter with the gentleman to put pen to paper. So I do feel like I'm back on the soul path now, which is wonderful.
I think it's extremely impressive. You went 4 or 5 years without drinking because I'm over 2 years sober now, personally as well. I quit on
Wow, well done.
I quit on the 27th of January 2024. So I'm
Right.
27 months this month, I think, working on my head. But I
Congratulations.
thought I'm doing well, but you did it for 4 or 5 years.
I know. Right. I read a book actually called by Annie Grace, This Naked Mind, Freedom from Alcohol. I don't know if you've come across your radar. And it was amazing. I was not intending on stopping at the time. My marriage was crumbling, life was pretty rubbish. I had two gorgeous children. I knew I was always going to rise up and be try to be the best mum I could. There was no way I was going to fall to rock bottom's basement like I did when mum died. But I read this book. It was around January as well, like you. And I didn't have any New Year's resolutions. I certainly wasn't thinking I was going to stop drinking. And within a week, I'd stopped. And then the week became 5 years. It's like just unbelievable. And I do drink a little bit now, but I actually drink beer now, funnily enough. I can handle, I love just a couple of beers, but no, certainly not the wine.
That was a little bit like me before I quit 100% for good. I was getting to the point where I was drinking just one drink, and that was enough
Right.
for me. One beer,
Yeah.
that was me done because I think that's the way. This is my personal, but I think that's the way booze
Yeah.
is designed to be drunk. The Mexicans
It is.
have those tequila shots, true, but they're very
Oh,
heavy. But they have one. They have one as a nightcap and go to bed, whereas Brits seem to think they
you
need 10 and yeah,
know.
yeah. Whereas Brits seem to think they need 10 to get to get the effect of it. One's just
Yeah,
enough.
I know. I was always the kind of person where one was never, no, one was too much and 1,000 was never enough. I was like that.
So you've been through a lot. You mentioned that you got divorced. You mentioned about your mum. You mentioned about your issues in the corporate world, and then a few minutes ago you said something that hit me where there's more to life. And at what point did things start to shift for you internally? At what point did that penny drop where you thought, wow, there's more to life? You may have answered it already, but just in case you didn't, I'd
Yeah,
like to give you the
I think
opportunity.
it was probably, you know how like you can go through really awful moments and actually they can become the greatest gift because they can help you. If you're the alchemist, you can then turn those moments, you can give them meaning. So long as you try not to lean too much into the hurt, you lean more into the lesson, and then hopefully you'll learn the lesson, right? That's what we're all here to do, I believe, anyway, to evolve. And so when my marriage was crumbling, whilst it was absolutely awful, and I had a 6-month-old baby and a 2-year old, and we'd just moved to Paul for our forever home, and everything was meant to be amazing, and it really wasn't. And again, the clown face was there. People were like, "Oh, how's the wedding going? How's the marriage? Yeah, it's all good, thanks. Yeah, loving it." Oh God, it was awful. And so at that time, though, I knew there was no way I was going to turn to the drink and the drugs like I did when Mum died. Absolutely not. And so instead of, I read something. What it was a Wayne Dyer quote, I think. Instead of just plain blaming or everything at my husband's doorstep and saying he was completely to blame for the breakdown of our marriage and getting swept up in that victim mode and blame culture, I wanted to look at the three fingers pointing back at me. I just wanted to kind of make peace with whatever he had done, let that go. What had I done? Because that was the thing where my power was. That was what I could change. And also, hopefully, by learning what I had contributed to the breakdown of our marriage, then fingers crossed, I wouldn't then make those same mistakes again. And it was really at that time. So this was in 2017 where I suddenly was like, right, I'm going to read everything I can about these self-help books. I'm going to do my positive affirmations. I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to just really, really work out what wounds I have, what still needs healing in me. Because I think when my husband and I met, we were just plasters for each other. I hadn't done any healing on myself. To me, he was my knight in shining armor. He had a troubled childhood. And so we were just plasters for each other. And that became very clear as I started on my healing journey that actually he was probably one of the greatest teachers because he opened up the can of the self-discovery for me. And without that breakdown of our marriage, then maybe I wouldn't have been on this journey that I am now. So that the gift with my children.
That's powerful. That's powerful, Sasha. That you've been through, you know, a divorce with a man, and naturally we do blame, but at the same time you recognize that you took some blame yourself, and I can relate to that because when I was a project manager, I left that job because it was too stressful for me. And during the time when I was leaving, and I still do now, I'll admit I still do now, I still fall into the blame, that company, that
Mhm.
company, that company. But as time's gone on, I reflected and gone back to me as well, like,
Yeah,
about
wonderful.
me and you me, like what was I, what was my fault? Because, it wasn't just what was going on in the outside world, it was also me as well.
100%. Yeah.
And when you take responsibility for that, it can feel a lot lighter, don't you think?
You definitely can. And
Yeah,
I feel like once you start, I honestly think once you start taking 100% responsibility for your own life, be
yeah,
it the journey you've been on, everything that's happened to you, you take 100% responsibility for it. Then you can start working with it. It gives you your power back. It's empowering. You can change what needs changing. You can see which bits you're trying to fix or fill a void by somebody else, or by scrolling too much, or by needing the validation. It becomes almost fun. It becomes
Yeah,
quite addictive, actually, in a
it
way. It's
does.
almost like it's my new drug. It's
The
weird,
better
but
kind.
yeah, much better kind. And then your relationships start shifting, and you start noticing things in other people, and you realize that everyone's a mirror, and it becomes fun. It's like you're in a game. Yeah, so I'm loving this journey, and I'll never get off of it. I'm forever interested and curious.
Before we get more into the book, do you mind me taking you back into the corporate world once more about
No,
your
of course
experience
not.
there? So,
Absolutely. Yes.
um, so in the corporate world, can you give times where stress showed up for you in that environment, and how do you see it differently today? So it might be a meeting, might be a boss or something like that. Do you, I guess what we just discussed, did you fall into that victim mentality back then and now looking at it a lot differently today?
Yeah, I mean, back then I was angry. I hated my job, which is awful because they're actually lovely. I mean, the boss was amazing. How on earth I got by there, I do not know. Um, yeah, I a lot of the time I felt stressed. I felt a fraud. I felt like I was cheating because I would pretend that I was interested and I was working hard when I actually really, really wasn't. I was doing enough to get by. Um, I yeah, I don't know. So in meetings, when we had business meetings, it was quite tricky because they would be talking about targets and what was my pipeline like, and I had to bullshit. Sorry to say that word a lot. I had to make things up on the spot, and that didn't sit comfortably with me because I'm actually quite an honest person, and I didn't like who I was becoming because I think. And then I had that feeling that I was a failure. It was like, you're failing, you're awful. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you as good as your peers? And so that whole childhood thing where I didn't think I was good enough it was almost like a self-perpetuating philosophy because it was then coming back at me in my career. And I yeah, it to me it all felt a bit of a cosmic joke, really. I was so out of place there. I feel like it was a bit like you because I was looking for the meaning, not the corporate world. It was as if I was a fish and someone was saying, right, you now need to go and climb that tree, have a competition with that leopard and see who's going to climb the tree the fastest.
Yeah.
And it's like I was just so out of place. I didn't know where I should be, and the stress, the emotional turmoil of all of that was hideous. And also, then when there are, you know, targets to meet or clients that were upset because perhaps I hadn't sent the business terms of business on time, or I was just juggling lots of balls and missing all of them and trying to keep up the act, and it was exhausting. And I'd go to bed and I'd probably drink because I was not just because I was grieving, but because I was stressed with work, and I kept thinking
Yeah.
I'm going to get found out. And every time my boss would walk around the office, I'd think, oh God, he's going to tap me on the shoulder and he's going to fire me on the spot. How I survived 10 years, I don't know, but I did. Thank God. Keep up the mortgage, the repayments and the bills.
So a lot of people feel like their job is the source of their stress.
Yeah.
I get your perspective on that.
I think for me, again, personally, personal experience, when I was in the wrong job, 100%, such a big source of stress.
Yeah.
But now in my job as an author, I don't have stress. I love it. And I think that's because I'm fortunate enough to have found something that I'm in real alignment with. And also the writing, it gives me real meaning and purpose. It ticks all those boxes. And I genuinely don't see it as work. I see it as a joy and a pleasure. And I can't wait to get to my laptop and write every day. So yes, I think if the job is something that's not lighting you up, then it can be a huge stress. And
It's I was about to say the same thing. It's that thing that lights you up inside, isn't it? It's
yeah,
it's what helps you create, internal joy in your life, isn't it?
really
That's
is.
you with a book, that's me doing this with you and podcasting and helping people with work stress. It's
Yeah.
what lights that fire within us.
Exactly, because then I think if it's lighting you up, then of course it's going to, fingers crossed, hopefully be lighting up the people around you. Like the ripple effect is going to be huge, isn't it? And when
Yes.
it lights you up, I feel like I get inspiration. I'll be walking on the beach and I'll suddenly have an idea, and it's like I'm bouncing for joy with things. Like things keep landing and ideas keep landing. And whereas when I was in the corporate world and I didn't have that passion, I nothing would land. I had no nothing. I felt like I had nothing to bring to the table at those meetings. I would just be parrot fashion or paraphrase things that my colleagues had said, and it didn't come from my heart. That's the difference. It was an act. I had a mask on. It wasn't soul led, and it didn't come from my heart, and that's why it was such a struggle.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because, like you say, when our heads are so full of mist, it's
Mm,
hard for something fresh to come through to us. But the reason I'm saying this is I can relate to it massively. When I was a project manager, there was hardly any room for that to come through in my brain. And when all those, when all that negativity naturally goes, I had space for ideas to come in, ideas to do
yeah.
this and how to do it, and it just flows like clockwork. Whereas before, it was like going through treacle. Do you know
Yes.
what I mean? You could probably relate when you were in the corporate world as well.
I really do. And when I was in the corporate world, I wasn't because I was then drinking after work because I was stressed at work, and a nice drink at the end of the day would keep me going, and then that drink would lead to another one. And so I didn't have the space. I didn't carve out the headspace. My head was so busy, and it was so busy with thoughts of the stress of the job, the horrible internal narrative that I wasn't good enough, that monkey mind. And yeah, I wasn't making space for my soul to come through and get me on my soul path and tell me what it was that would light me up and that I needed to do. There was no space inside me. It was just clogged with drink, with hangovers, with angst, with worry, with grief, with feelings of despair. I needed to create the space.
I guess that naturally moves on to my next point. I think you might have mentioned this on the call we had off air, but you spoke about realizing that work didn't feel that meaningful at the time. What did
Yeah.
you start to see about that?
So what do you mean? Sorry, could you rephrase that a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah, sure. So I guess what point in your 10 year career in the corporate world
Mm.
did you start to think this isn't working for me? Was it after a year? Was it after the 9 years or 10 years? Or what I'm trying to get out of this, I guess, is did you know that early on in the 10 years that this wasn't for you, or did it only hit you when at the end of the period, if that makes sense, that you needed to
Oh,
do
I
the book
knew
and
instantly, even
yeah,
at
it's
the
funny, isn't
interview.
it?
I knew instantly.
Yeah.
I was going along with societal pressure, family expectations. It was what I felt was expected of me, and I didn't realize I had any choice but to follow suit, play suit, and go along with it. I even to the point of doing the business studies degree at Sheffield. I didn't, I didn't want to do that degree. It was gently guided by teachers and family as a good, sensible option. I love dance and drama, but I can understand why people would say, well, you might be in your 60s still waiting for your big break. So let's do the sensible option. But I, yeah, I feel like, and then having got the business studies degree, it was almost like, well, of course you're going to go into something in finance or business or corporate world, of course. And I just felt like I was kind of on a conveyor belt, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that I could get off. I didn't know I could get off. So even when I was doing the interviews for these things, I was putting on an act. I wasn't. But then the truth is, I equally didn't know what I wanted to do. It's
Yeah.
funny, isn't it? You might not know, you don't know what you want to do, but you know what you don't want to do. So I knew I didn't want to do the business studies degree, and I knew I didn't want to be in a corporate world working a 9 to 6 job that for me felt like it had no meaning. I was always rather envious of the people that from a kid knew they wanted to be a doctor or they wanted to be a lawyer. But yeah, I felt like that gene had passed me as well, and I didn't. So I was a bit clueless, but I didn't. I just wanted meaning. I just wanted something that I suppose lit me up. That had purpose to it. And so I knew from the very beginning, from the interviews, it wasn't really something that was going to light me up.
Well, that's what it was like though, wasn't it? It was like, we went to school, we went to uni, and we were expected to do that and get a stable job. And we
Yeah.
didn't know any different. And I guess our brains were programmed from a young age to think that's what you did and that's what we did do. And that for me, that's still around today. It's not gone away anywhere. That kind of linear system we're pushed into. But
Mm.
today there's a lot more options for people to do if they know to get out their own way and do them.
Yes, yeah. I hope so, especially with children. I really hope that when my children are older, there are more options that they are going to be able to follow their heart a lot more. I do think as well with the advancement of AI, so many jobs, even in this day and age, aren't going to be here anymore. So actually, I feel that the education system is pretty outdated, and that I'm hoping that AI is going to free many people up so that we don't work in these so-called, jobs that for that person doesn't have meaning, and it then frees people up to actually sit with themselves, perhaps meditate 10 to 20 minutes every day, and really work out what their inner genius is, what were they born here to give to the world. Because I think that's kind of, once you find that, everyone's got it. Everyone's here with their unique little spark in them. And nobody else can copy that. It's you. It's beautiful. We've all got it. And it's just finding that. And so I really hope that my children are able to do that earlier on, and then won't, be a carbon copy of the career that I had.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope that for my kids as well. And if there's any, this is why I was really happy to have you on the show, because I think you just epitomize that to people that you can change direction of your career. You can do something completely different no matter what age you are, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or even beyond. There's never too late to change your thoughts and mold them into doing something you've always wanted to do that lights you up.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. We can always reinvent ourselves, can't
Yeah,
we?
absolutely.
Particularly, if it's for the good, if it's for our highest good, it's wonderful. You can do it in any moment. Um, yeah, nothing's forever.
Um, let's get on to the book if that's okay now. I
Yes,
think we
I'd love
talked enough about
to.
life and the corporate world. And so, what was it actually like writing the book, especially with everything you'd been through? You know, did you write it with anger? Did you write it with sadness? Take me on that journey of those 3 years of writing the book. To
Oh, do you know, initially, so as I say, I'm having come back from this experience with a gentleman abroad, that Shirley Valentine experience. So then it was, I suppose, a way to process those amazing feelings, to get them down on paper. And I didn't want to forget any of it, It was a way to just, yeah, memorize these experiences forever. Um, I've I so much times writing the book. In my head, I've been in the pub with my friends, I've been roaring with laughter, I've had the best times writing the book. And then equally I have been sobbing my heart out. And that's been the release. And it's been writing about this girl's mother who dies. And it's, I've felt all of the feelings, and I've tried to inject so much humor into it because it's made me laugh, and hoping that it will also make other people laugh and it'll be a source of entertainment. I read somewhere how someone saying, well, why is that person so funny? And it's because they hurt so much. And I feel like I've almost become that person, because I have had a lot of hurt in my life, but now having, a bit of distance and a bit of space from it, I can kind of almost see the humor in it. Um, and that's a wonderful position to be in. So yeah, writing my book I'd already done lots of work on myself, but the last 3 years has been the biggest therapy going. It's been phenomenal. Like I say, I've been able to let go of the pain of mum dying. The self-love side of things has really come there. I've seen what I'm capable of. I'm pretty proud of myself because I didn't ever think I would be in this position. And it's been such a gift. I have loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear that your journey of writing the book gave you all those good feelings and healing that you needed. Was there ever any moments of when writing the book that any self-doubt crept in for you? Because I guess for a lot of people, we talked about 5 minutes ago about changing careers. A lot of people in the corporate world, want to change careers. Then that demon comes and doesn't it, saying, "I can't do this. I don't do this. I don't write books. I don't podcast. I don't do this." And they listen to it, and that's my job as a coach, a work stress coach, is to, you know, in layman's terms, stop people from listening to that voice and
Yeah.
know the real them. Like you say, because you don't need anything outside of you to fix you. You are enough. Did any self-doubt creep in for you writing the book at all?
What is completely crazy, given I had so much self-doubt for most of my life, I've had none with this,
Oh wow.
which I feel is a really good sign that I'm on the right path. Haven't had any doubt. And I
That's
don't know whether
brilliant.
that's because have had 7 years of working on the monkey mind in my head and turning it into the biggest champion and all the positive affirmations and, making sure that my inner world is strong and stable and I've got the inner peace and stuff. I don't know whether, I'm sure all of that has had a part to play, but I haven't had self-doubt with the book. Maybe it's also because it's come from my heart. And I think when it's from your heart, you don't, there's no room for the doubt. It's felt right. It's just felt right.
That's amazing. And in the in the scenario that you said you did have some self-doubt, I was going to ask you what helped you keep going, but you can't really answer that question based on what you just said. But absolutely, you do things from the heart rather than the intellect. You do it from a
Yeah,
place of here rather than here. It's amazing how far you can get in life with different things.
it's so amazing. And for most of my life, it's been in the head. And I've had the compare and the despair and, oh, why am I not good enough? And why are they all so good? And what's wrong with me? And whereas with this, because it's me, I'm not comparing myself to anyone else. I'm just writing from my heart. And no one has the same experiences or way with words that I do. So there's no compare despair. There's no, it's just, it's poured out of me. That's all I can say. Like I've never had writer's block. I've even, for a long time, for probably about 2.5 years, I would get up about 4 o'clock almost every morning and come down and write. Because I always thought, even at weekends, if I've got at least done at least 2, 3 hours before the kids get up, then at least that's something every day, And then
Yeah.
invariably I'd write, around various other things and in the evenings. But it was just, I ring fenced that time. And whenever the children, because every other weekend they're with their father. So my social life has taken a massive bashing. I haven't minded because I've been in my
No.
element. I've been healing. I've been, as I say, laughing in the pub with my friends in the book in my head. And yeah, it's been a wonderful, I suppose, sort of experience and release for me. And I haven't wanted to be anywhere else. Um,
I have actually noticed how your emails have been called quite early, and that's like me as well. I'm quite an early bird as well. So
you.
like, oh, she's replied at 7:30 in the morning. That's good. I like that because I'm up at 5:30 every day myself as well, and I try and get some work done those hours. But like you say, with kids, it's so difficult when because they get
Yeah.
up like an hour later. You about a 20-minute power time just to get something done, like email you for example, and then
Oh, thank
then
you.
you then you're on to being a parent as you know. So.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the list. Let's talk about the listeners of this recording. So, if someone listening to this recording, Sasha, feels stuck in their job or in work stress or self doubt, what would you want them to know that would
I would
help
say,
them?
I suppose that the trouble is it's financial pressure, isn't it? So if they're in a job and they've got bills to pay and they don't feel like they don't really have a way out, then obviously you're going to have to keep going to the job for now. However, if you could just, I'd say, carve time out every day to sit in silence. I don't do guided meditations. It's more I just sit there and I just say, I'm here and I'm ready and I wait for something to happen. And I tend to just see a beautiful green swirl, or I might get an idea in the meditation, or something will come to me later that day or that week. But if you do that sort of every day, and then the days lead to months and the months lead to years, slowly but surely you end up, it's like for me, I feel it's like I plug myself into the universal power socket, and it's like it comes to me with little ideas or nudges and I can't ignore them. Like they're so bespoke, they can only be for me. Silly things like I love the name Sky, and I was thinking about the lead character for one of the characters in my book. And that morning I was thinking about the name Sky, and then I went into a shop with the children, and the shop assistant was called Sky. And silly little things like that.
Yeah,
So I think if you're stuck in a job that you don't want to be in, you've got the self doubt, it would be to just sit with yourself for just 10 minutes, maybe 15 every day. And slowly but surely, you will start opening up that little connection between you and your soul or your higher self. And slowly but surely, there'll just be little ideas and things that will come through. And it just gets you, personally, it got me onto my A path. And with that, I feel like you do need to, it's all about regulating your nervous system, trying to walk away from anything that's toxic or any relationships that aren't working, or you've got to be strong with this stuff. But it's worth it. Because if you can get a job that lights you up, it doesn't feel like work.
No. Self-awareness can be quite powerful, can't it, as well? Like when you said to just give yourself 10 minutes just to kind of feel the
Yeah,
feelings and just give yourself that space and that breathing room and just recognize what's going on. That can be
I
really
really,
powerful for someone. It can be the difference between someone not having a mental breakdown, can't it?
I think so. And it's also for me, a big thing has been really having huge honesty with myself, not shying away
Yeah.
from the heart, the horrible icky bits or the shadows, and certainly through the writing, this girl's had similar experiences to me. So it's making peace with all of that. And yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with just your awareness and your willingness to change and to look at the parts of you that could perhaps be a little bit better and not placing blame at anyone else. Take 100% responsibility for your life. It's your life. Mm.
Last couple of things. So,
Yes.
what do you hope people take away from reading Love, Grief, and More Sex and Pinot?
Oh, I hope they feel all the feels. I hope they laugh until they cry. This is one thing my mum used to do. I hope they cry until they laugh. I hope they recoil and they think, oh my God, she didn't, or wow, I did that, or I can't believe they did this. I hope they realize that we're all human. We're all messy. We're all complicated. We're all here trying to do our very best with the awareness that we have at any given moment. Um, and that we can also just have some humor with it, right? We're actually all just whizzing around on this rock, aren't we, in this huge planet? Like we're not here for long. So try
No.
to, I suppose, lighten up a bit. And if my book can make people laugh and if it, yeah, can entertain, then it's a good talking point. And make people perhaps feel like they're not quite so failing or mucking up as they thought. Because crikey, look at Soho Summers, look at what she did. And if it can inspire hope in them as well, that no matter how hard you fall, you can always get back up, and it does make you stronger, wiser, more resilient. Um, I think I would just love people to come away with that feeling a bit more empowered, and have had a good giggle.
When I read the first couple of chapters, it made me smile because it did take me back to, like you say, the Sheffield nightlife and queuing up outside nightclubs and a gaggle of girls like talking the way, talking the way girls do. When they're about to go into a nightclub
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. It really did take me back. So I'm sure people who purchase the book are really going to enjoy it. And
Thank you.
just a final thing, Sasha, just to say, well done, for writing a book
Thank
that
you.
well done for writing a book that well done for writing a book where you've seen past the resistance because as I said before, a lot of people would want to write a book and have that self-doubt creep in and not do it. And I listened to a Mel Robbins podcast a few weeks ago, and Mel Robbins was talking about her friend, and her friend had a book deal on the table for 20 years. 20 years she had a book deal on the table, and she's still
Oh,
not took it up. And
oh
that's
my
sad.
gosh.
And I can only put that down as what I've just said creeping in. I can't do this. I
Yeah,
can't do this.
yeah.
Credit to you because that's not happened to you. You've seen past it. You've done it, and you're proving to
Thank
people
you.
that you can do things. Despite not, we like you say, we're trained when we're younger to have this linear corporate job. We're trained to
Yeah,
get a job, be in it for 40 years. I think those days are dying a bit now, but you're proving it life doesn't have to be that way. And if it doesn't go to plan, it's not over.
yeah.
You can still do things, and you've done it. Well done.
Thank you. That's really kind of you. I do feel very touched that you've said that. Thank you. It means a lot.
No,
Hmm.
no problem at all. So, last couple of things. So, you've obviously written this book, and what's the plans for the rest of 2026? Do you want to do you want to take the opportunity of saying what your plans are, post book launch? Like, are you just
Yeah.
waiting for the book to come out and see how it does? What's the plans for the rest of 2026?
That's the thing. It's so exciting because actually, so I spent 3 years sat at my laptop, and I became a little hermit, but a happy one. And now it's all about getting the book out and being on these amazing podcasts like this one. And again, I've never done things like this before. This is my third podcast, and I'm very honoured to be invited on them. But it's all learning curve for me.
Yeah,
But I'm going with it. I'm not letting the doubt creep in or the fear creep in. I am literally like I'm doing this. It's like having a third baby. It's happening. And so enjoy it. And in terms of what's next, I've got the book launch at the Bournemouth Writers Festival on the 26th of April. The book actually comes out on Thursday, the 16th of April, on Kindle and paperback on Amazon. I've got various other podcasts that are happening. And then I've also have just got from the second edit of my second book, which is called Soho Summers versus Love, Life, the Universe. So that will be out just before Christmas. So I'm going to be snowed under working, getting all of that ready and set for launch, and to be, go from a messy manuscript to a publishable book, choosing cover designers, writing the blurb, getting it, publishing it. So there is a lot going on top of all the social media stuff, which again, I didn't realize how big that would all be. But again, I'm leaning into the fun of it as opposed to the fear, and I'm working with it. And so there's a lot, and then the 2 children to look after. But I can do it. It's all happening.
That's wonderful. You can see from my Instagram page, I'm still learning about social media as well. I seem to be learning a little bit more every week, a little bit more here and there every week, and like you say, it builds up and builds up and builds up. So you mentioned it's out on the 16th of April, which I guess we could say technically I'm releasing this podcast next Sunday, so technically we can say it's out now because it'll be this recording will be Sunday the 19th. So it's out now.
It's out now.
It's out now, not the 16th of April, because we're beyond the 16th of April.
Yeah.
Is that date of what's just been past the 16th of April worldwide, or just UK for now?
That's worldwide.
Worldwide, wow.
That will be. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's amazing, actually. Today I pressed the button on Amazon to release it, because it's been there saved and everything. I've got the Kindle's been put on pre-order for about a week now, but I actually pressed the button to say, publish my book. And it takes about up to 72 hours for it to actually go on into the Amazon system. So it's on, Thursday would have been three days from now, 3 days ago.
And am I right thinking that I've read the best way to describe it is a blend between the British sitcom Fleabag and Bridget Jones's Diary? Is that the best way of linking the...
Yeah. It's totally like that. I love both of those, the books, the films, programs. And I felt very much, because Soho Summers is so honest. It's very 3D. She looks at herself. She takes the mickey out of herself. And I hope she's very endearing. And I've always loved Bridget Jones. I've just found her, I've just felt like I'd want to be one of her best friends, And Fleabag I love because it was so naughty. And I thought it's actually just as a real mix of the two. So yes, if you love Bridget Jones and Fleabag, then you will love my book. So go buy Love, Grief and More Sex and Pinot.
Excellent. And where can people buy it? Is just Amazon, did you say? Or is there any?
It's just on Amazon at the moment. However, that's another thing that I will be doing for the rest of the year. I have got my website up and running, and I also will be selling my books online on my website. But for now it's on Amazon. And then it will be in libraries and fingers crossed Waterstones and all these places, but we'll see.
Excellent. And I've really enjoyed doing this recording with you, Sacha, and I think a lot of people who especially in office jobs or any industry for that matter, will get a lot out of it and realize that there is more to life than just doing a job they don't like doing, and see it. And hopefully this recording will help them see past the resistance that people have going on within their own minds as well. So thank you for your time, and thank you for doing this recording with me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you, and I've really enjoyed it too. I really have. Thank you.
If this episode resonated with you, then feel free to connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn, where I share more insights on work stress, leadership pressure, and the inside out understanding. You can also contact me directly via email at onethoughtaway1988@gmail.com. And if you're navigating pressure in your own career, you can download my free work stress guide using the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care, and remember, work stress might feel real in the moment, but it isn't who you really are. Thank you.